For the 2020 model year, BMW presented a brand new model family in its Motorrad lineup, the F900 models, which have two members. The R is a roadster, a naked one, and the XR version, which we are going to check out now in detail, is a sporty touring motorbike, but with a higher suspension than the average. The whole silhouette and the design is, we can say, pretty similar or nearly the same as the S1000XRs. It has a pretty aggressive face. The lights are symmetric, so not asymmetric as in many other previous BMW models. It has a sporty, not too big, but we can say more or less effective windshield, and all the parts of the bike, the side panel, the small wing beside it, the sharp lines everywhere where we can watch it, the whole color combination of the bike, the short passenger seat, the rear part finishing with the license plate keeper, and more or less seeable engine and aggressive, not too fat, and pretty nice sounding and aggressive silencer. So all the parts are making absolutely clear that this is the small brother of the big S1000XR, and which is really funny that many guys who I met during the miles with the F9000XR said that the bike is looking much better live than they thought it's looking after seeing the videos and the photos about it. Let's speak a few words about the engine, because we can think that this is a totally new engine of BMW as it is 900 cubic centimeter, but I think it's not absolutely true, because the basic of the engine is coming from the F850 GS and GS Adventure version, where it is an 852 cubic centimeter. Here the capacity is increased to 895 cubic centimeter, and the power is 105 brake horsepower, while the maximum torque is 92 Newton meters, and this power is absolutely enough for moving this ready to ride 219 kilogram motorbike as dynamic as it is, let's say, as it is safely enjoyable on public roads. And the new F900XR has a version which can be driven or ridden with A2 driver's license. There the maximum power is 48 and the maximum torque is 66 Newton meter, but both of the bikes can be ordered with the BMW quick shifter system, which means that if you can see this small piece here connecting to the gear change lever, then you can know that this is a quick shifter, which means that it solves everything instead of you. So you have to use the clutch only when starting. Afterwards it gives the throttle beep and everything while changing the gear, so you can feel yourself a much better rider. Sorry from everybody, than you are really. Let's speak a few sentences about the suspension. In the front we have two upside-down telescopic forks. The travel of them is 170 millimeters, so relatively long related to a street bike, and the width of them are 43 millimeters. The only problem, if we can call it a problem, is that we cannot change any parameter of these suspension units, so the telescopic forks. And if once we are here, let's speak a few words about the brake system as well, because in the front we have two pretty huge disc brakes. 320 millimeter is the diameter of them, and 4-piston radial caliper, and the brake efficiency of the bike is we can say more than enough. So the weakest point is the tire, or much more the grip of the public road asphalts. And if we walk here to the rear section of the F900XR, then we can see that in the rear we have a central suspension unit. We can change the preload and the damping of it manually in the basic kit, and you can buy the dynamic ESA for the motorbike, which means that you can change the whole setup to dynamic or road behavior, and the whole rear suspension unit is changing its parameters always while you are riding, so they are dynamically working as the environment and your riding style needs it. And let's speak a little about the behavior of the whole suspension, because here at this point I had some problem with the motorbike. I ride with it more than 1000 kilometers on public roads last week, and during that all the time the whole bike was in road, the suspension as well, and there the whole behavior of it was absolutely sufficient and good. Even when you are riding a little bit faster, which is the speeds which are safe on public roads, for those speeds this suspension setup in road is absolutely good, and it's in harmony, the front and the rear section of the motorbike. It's a sporty behavior, so you can feel the road mistakes, but even the harder road mistakes doesn't hurt you, so you are not suffering on a bike like a sport bike. So this 170 and in the rear 172 millimeter travel is absolutely enough for this. So it's sporty but comfortable enough. But to make some pictures about the bike, we came down to Kapucsin, which is a small go-kart track here or kart track here in Hungary. And here the whole bike was put to dynamic mode, which means that the suspension was always on, also in dynamic, and not the front, only the rear, because the front we cannot change. So here, when we started to ride a little bit faster, this is not a fast racetrack at all, much more it's a technical one. But as we were riding in dynamic, the front part started to become a little bit too soft related to the rear of it. So if you want to really hurt with the bike on, let's say, a sporty serpent in high speeds, then you have to be ready that the front part is not working like the rear one if you are riding on dynamic. But of course, BMW have to give in something a little bit less in the case of the F900 than the big brother, the S1000XR. The seat position is a perfect combination of the sporty and the comfortable and even long-term touring motorbike riding. So the downer part is, we can call it relatively sporty, the footpack position related to the seat. As I have very long legs, the knee angle is sharp, but for many riders it's going to be much more comfortable. But even for me it was not this comfortable at all, because I was riding sometimes 350-400 kilometers one day, and I had no knee problem with it at all. The handlebar is close enough, and it's all in all its position is very good. So it's relatively wide, very easy to drive the motorbike with it, the XR with it, and the whole upper body's position is very straight, very relaxed, and very comfortable. And together with the good suspension, this is really an extremely good riding position, relatively active we can call it. The wind protection is also very important in the case of a touring bike. So this is a relatively small windshield that we have, but it has two positions. This is the downer one. Here it pushes all the wind more or less to my neck. It means that my helmet gets a lot of bugs and wind and everything. In the higher position, because it has only two, so in this position the wind is going down from my helmet, much less bugs, but the wind noise is increased in the case of my height and my helmet what I was riding the bike with. All the buttons on the handlebars are just the same as in the case of all the other BMW models. Heated grips, mode selector, and the starter and the stopping button on the right side, while on the left side we have the cruise control, the daylight, the emergency lights. Here we can change the suspension and the dynamic traction control of the motorbike, indicator, horn, and the menu buttons, and the I-ring, which we know pretty well. If we put the ignition on, this bike is coming with the keyless ride system, then we can see that this is the first BMW, as far as I know, the F900 family, which is coming as a standard equipment with the connected dashboard, which means that the bike can be connected to your phone, to your passenger, everything can even navigate. We showed all of these in the review of the F750GS. Here on the right upper corner you can see the link of it, so you can check that if you wish. But on this bike it has one more feature, so we have already introduced this feature of BMW, that's why I do not want to speak too much about it. But I would like to show you only one thing, that in the My Vehicle you can see lots of data about your motorbike, and it has a sport, let's say, display, which means that we have a different picture from the basic one. Here the RPM is dominating, but we can see how many percent the dynamic traction control had to reduce the rear wheel of the bike if you are riding on a racetrack or bad let's say grip conditions. What was your maximum deceleration when you were braking at the end of the start finish line, and the RPM counter is the biggest, of course, and you can see your leaning angle all the time, the present one as well, but if you are watching this while you are in a curve, you will be that for sure. And in the blue ones you can see to the left and to the right which was your maximum. Always, the bike always forgets it when you stop it, but with these meters we can tell you the very important data, that the foot pegs are reaching the tarmac at 44 degrees. So all in all, BMW made a really good motorbike with the new F900XR, because it's a comfortable, even for a long time to long distance touring, very good on bad roads as well, but sporty enough. There are only a few problems which I can mention. For example, that this 270-degree inline 2 engine, personally me, so I don't really like this all the time feelable vibration of the engine, but I know it's clear for me that the biggest part of the riders, for example, love this, that they can feel how the engine is working. So for all of those riders who like it, it's going to be a lovely thing. Then, for example, this point of the suspension, that the front is not changeable, it was again a problem for me, but only if you are really riding fast in changed curves, more or less on a racetrack. Then for public roads it's again absolutely enough. For example, the wind protection is, for me it was noisy, but I am a tall guy, and this bike is really good for many short riders as well, because the basic seat height is 825 millimeters, but there is existing a shorter suspension, 20 millimeters in the front and in the rear as well. That's also available, and lower seat is also available, so the seat heights can go down to 770 millimeters, and with different comfort seats it can go up to 890. So there are many versions depending on how tall you are, but even for short riders it's going to be a safe and very comfortable bike. And for these short riders, this wind protection problem, for example, is not going to exist at all. So all in all, this is a really very good motorbike, and also the basic price is very good related to its rivals. Of course, if we put all the extra features into it, then it goes up, but even like this is a very reliable buying this bike. And even the sound of it is beautiful. If you loved our review, please push a thumb up on it. In the description under the film you can find the link where you can donate us. If you do it, we will send all of our films to you before they become public. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe for our channel and watch our previous contents as well. Thanks a lot for your kind attention.